Can you hear me?
I can. Sorry,
Oh.
Connor. You see what I'm doing?
Everyone calls me Connor. That's so common.
Let us roll, my friend, and I will not screw up your name. I swear to God.
No, it's okay. Connor, I sometimes go by. I went by Connor. This is a true story for an entire year in my Spanish class and never told
Because it
her.
was easier.
Big shelf.
Let us begin. Hello, I'm Jason Gore from Toronto. Mazel tov on the film. Let's
Thank
talk
you so
about your
much.
let's talk about your Jew adjacent film. What is your first experience at a bar mitzvah? What made you decide that this would be the perfect setting for a Goisha story about a guy who makes everybody dance?
My first experience. So I went to the school that was really heavily Jewish, and I went from kindergarten through 12th grade, and it didn't mean anything to me that my friends were all Jewish until I walked into my first service. And I literally went to a service and a party every single Saturday in 7th grade. Um, and I felt very envious. And I had a girlfriend in high school for 3 years and did so many Shabbat dinners and desperately wished to know the prayers. And her parents often looked at me like, "You're not going to marry our daughter." And I had that time in my life was very defined by that like outsider perspective, I guess. And when I thought of the bar mitzvah circuit idea for cha-cha, because really I was just trying to look for a way for this 22-year-old and 32-year-old to keep coming into contact. When I had that idea, I thought, is that too silly? But then I thought of the party starter idea, which is happened. There was one party starter for all of the parties that I went to in 7th grade. His name is Vince. He was 40 years old. All of the parents thought he was the greatest, and all of the kids were like, "You're old." And but yeah, when I had the party starter idea, that's when the themes of the movie kind of like became clear. Of this guy who's really good at starting other people's parties and doesn't know where to start when starting his own.
I mean,
But
what
yeah.
I love the film. Saw it at Sundance virtually, which is a shame. And here we can go on about streaming and theatrical and all of that stuff. But I really wished I saw the film in an audience environment, in the same way that you have a party starter that's trying to get everybody engaged and everybody sort of connecting. You have a film that the vast majority of people are going to see sort of by themselves at a distance. Just wondering, as a filmmaker, if you could talk about navigating all that, the new normal. I don't want to get anybody into trouble here, but just talk about how you make films for a larger audience and speak to that, and the sort of advantages and challenges of working within the virtual medium.
I think streamers have made it really way more small movies, way more accessible, and they've given smaller independent movies like this platform, and they're really good at platforming movies and it's getting them out in kind of an organic way with that Apple money. But I think everyone always wants to see. I want to think that the theater experience is the best experience and why we all fell in love with movies in the first place. And Cha-Cha is a really small movie that I think, of course, I want to see TV shows in movie theaters, but that's not the reality. And I'm in New York right now, and there's 4 theaters that are playing Cha-Cha, and I really can't wrap my head around that. And I feel so grateful and like so excited that some people will get to see it in theaters, but I can't also believe that so many people will just snuggle on a couch and watch it, or watch it in bed and fall asleep in the middle of it or something. That feels so great too. And so yeah, it's the new normal, but I think it's going to stay this way. If anything, I don't think all of a sudden theaters are going to disappear. If anything, I think they're going to come back a little bit more. Like yeah.
If you had one song that you were going to get everybody on the dance floor with, what would it be?
24K Magic by Bruno Mars. That song, just always something about it gets everyone on the dance floor. I've had experience with that. Tried to put it in Cha-Cha, but our music supervisor was like, "Buddy." So
so talk about your own experience of being there, like DJing and actually getting people up. What do we not understand in that context of getting people into a party, of what's involved with that? What it seems like a very simple job, but in some ways it's like being a director. You're trying to play with people's emotions.
It's exactly like the director. For one of the montages, we like literally used a shot of me directing and just me saying, have more energy. And that it just looked like I was party starting, because that's all it is. And it was like self-reflexive in that way. But it takes coming outside of yourself entirely. And I think that is why it worked so well that was Andrew's job, because he's always outside of himself, and that's his biggest flaw in life, is that he does not have any ground to stand on inside of himself. He's a severe lack of boundaries. I think that's the thing that great party starters really know how to turn it on and turn it off. And Andrew is a bad party starter in a lot of ways, because he's like threatening kids on the side and drinking alcohol. So yeah, it takes knowing the nature of a professional gig.
I mean, I guess the directorial equivalent is never make a film on your own credit card. Is that sort of a fair illusion?
Yeah, or never drink while directing.
That works too. Back in the old days, they did much worse, or I guess back in the new days, they also do much worse. If you talk about, obviously, you surround yourself with this very enthusiastic and empathetic cast. If you could talk about bringing them all together, but especially finding your youngest co-star who plays Lola.
Yeah, she finding Vanessa was the best thing in the world. I wanted to make a movie about this bond between this young mom and this disabled daughter, and that was way back in the very beginning of when I had the idea for the movie. And when I watched her tape, I just knew that she was reading with her mom. I don't know what it was, but maybe she was like I could tell she was a bit frustrated at one point or something. And you just saw this eternal, very heavy, beautiful bond. And I cracked me wide open, and I started crying. And she was really nothing like the Lola that I had written. But I called the producer Ro and just said, we have to have Vanessa, because she's the heart of the movie. And I met with her and her mom a bunch, and I found out that she was very opinionated, and she really, really helped create Lola. Because there were times when I would literally just say, do you like this line? And she would say, I do not like that line. And I'd say, okay, well, you said that about every single line, so it seems like we're going to rewrite this whole thing. And we really did, and the movie's so much better for it.
How did you talk about the rest of the cast, but also just from the outside, it seems incredibly impossible to be juggling all this stuff, producing, writing, directing, acting. And yet I think in other ways it might be incredibly natural, in the sense that if you need to change something, you're just there and you just make the change. So if you could talk about that, working with actors and bring it all together within an indie environment where we got to get the shot done.
Yeah, it's so fluid. I think people think it's like, take off this hat and put on this hat. It's the same thing. And I can literally direct while I'm in the middle of the scene. And Dakota was a co-director. Like, we would be in a scene together, and all of a sudden I would say something different, and she would know exactly why I'm okay, we're going in a different direction, but we want to keep the energy, so we're not going to call it cut. That's what's really nice about acting and directing, is you kind of can get away with usually just doing one take, because we've got it, we're going. And I don't have to have like a megaphone or something behind the monitor. It's really nice. I really like to be close to my actors, and the way to be closest is to literally act in scenes with them. And so yeah.
You're primarily doing, obviously, your own stuff. I'm always interested with indie directors. A lot of them continue to only be writer-directors and do their own stories and make it very personal, put themselves. But also there's a skill to telling someone else's story and having someone else on there. Where do you see yourself? Where do you see your talents going in the future?
I'm not at all interested in telling my own story anymore. So the next movie I'm making is based on this true story of this dad buying his 18-year-old son a hockey team in Danbury, Connecticut, and the story ends with the dad in federal prison. And it's really such a emotional story, and it's personal to me for a lot of reasons. But yeah, I'm not someone who is, at the very beginning of all this, when I got an agent, they were like, do you want to read scripts? Because a lot of my clients don't like to read scripts. They're just are doing their own thing. I'm like, oh, of course I want to read scripts. I would love to not have to write from my own brain. Yeah.
So we cannot wait to see it. Congratulations on the film, Mazel Tov, once again. And thanks so much. We wish you had made it to Toronto, but whatever. Virtual's sometimes pretty good.
Sometimes, yes. It's a bummer, but thank you so much for your time.
All the best. Take care.